Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2025 SAIF Agri-Business Banquet presented by our partners at KeyBank. My name is Tom Hoffert, and I have the honor of serving as CEO of the Salem Chamber, led by the best board of directors in the state, a 25-person unit who makes great choices each day to make sure business is relevant in Oregon and that your needs are being reflected with elected officials everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct honor for me to introduce our Salem Chamber President from Vips Industries, Mr. Mike Herron.
All right, thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. As Tom said, my name is Mike Herron with Vips Industries, and I have the distinct honor and pleasure of serving as president of your Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the board and the chamber, I do want to welcome you again to the SAIF Agri-Business Banquet presented by our friends and partners at KeyBank. We're very excited to have you all here this evening to recognize and honor the importance of agriculture in our state and in our community. I don't think it's any secret or surprise to anyone in this room that Oregon was built on agriculture and that Salem was built on agriculture. Fortunately, we continue to live in a city where we don't have to be disconnected from that. You can't go anywhere in Salem and not be 10 or 15 minutes car ride away from being on a farm. That's an amazing thing. So tonight, we celebrate both the proud heritage and the local connection to agriculture. We celebrate the resilience of Oregon's farmers, ranchers, and processors. We celebrate the suppliers and the service providers who support you. We celebrate your industry, and we celebrate you. I'm wearing my boots, and in a funny way, small way, we're celebrating your way of life. And I want to remind you, I'm pretty sure the rural way of life includes scrupulous adherence to impeccable manners. So I will gently remind you to please silence your phones so we can all enjoy the evening. Now I'd ask that you please stand, remove your hats, and join me in a moment of prayer and reflection, and remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by Elizabeth Eck from the Roundhouse Band. We take this time to pray and reflect, each in our way, on our lives and this moment. We are thankful for the meal before us, for those who grew it, for the hands that prepared it, and for those who serve it. We are grateful for this day, for its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. May we lend each other strength and guidance. May we be deeply driven to always give our best and meet the obstacles we face with courage. Amen. Elizabeth.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight on the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Still there, oh say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Elizabeth and the Roundhouse Band. They'll be providing all of the live music for us tonight. Go ahead and take your seats. Thank you. So this is my favorite part of my time up here because I get to close it and hand off the microphone to somebody else. But it's now my distinct privilege and honor to introduce tonight's MC. She's a fellow chamber board member. She's a fierce advocate for rural and ag communities and industry. She's also happens to be the executive director of the Oregon Cattlemen's Association. Ladies and gentlemen, cowboys, cowgirls, and all you city slickers, put your hands together and please welcome to the podium the dynamic Tammy Dennee.
Well, it's a privilege and an honor to be with you tonight, and I get to be the traffic control person. So before we do anything else, and I know that you're eating your salads, and the lights are up enough, all of the farmers and if any ranchers are with us tonight, would you please stand? And we just want to say thank you. Every one of you, please stand up, because I know several of you, and I'll call you out by name, I promise. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My job every day is to represent and advocate on behalf of Oregon's 11,000 ranchers who raise more than 1 million head of cattle across the state. And this unique industry that I have the privilege to advocate for is located with their ranches across the state, and yes, even here in Marion County. And that is one of the notes I try to make every time I engage with policymakers. And they find it hard to believe that there are cattle in their district or near their district or something that has to do with this industry. But that's not unlike any other sector of ag in Oregon. What we do really well here in Oregon is grow stuff, right? And what you do as consumers is you enjoy it. So as consumers tonight, I want you to feel that sense of privilege, but also that gratitude of knowing that we live in a place where what we do really well is grow stuff in abundance. And we have the honor and the privilege to support our farmers and ranchers every day with our buying choices. So every time you make a choice, I hope you'll look and see where it came from. And as you come across farmers and ranchers in your day-to-day life, I hope you'll say thank you. It's such a privilege tonight to be your MC. And I know that the staff is waiting anxiously, and we have cooks in the kitchen who are saying, let's get on with the show. So let's get on with that food service, ladies and gentlemen. We have such a wonderful team here at the Salem Convention Center. And while you're enjoying your meal, please also enjoy the slideshow that we've put together for you. We've just taken a few images of Oregon ag, and we've also shared some information with you about tonight's event. So please enjoy the people at your table, enjoy meeting new people and having wonderful conversation. And as you engage around the room, please remember to say thank you. And I look forward to coming back with you in just a few minutes. Enjoy your meal.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know a few of you are waiting for your meals. Our apologies on that. We're moving as quick as we can, but how about the Roundhouse Band? Now, as you prepare to watch me say a little bit about PG and their commitment to this banquet, forgive me, I'm going to go grab something big in 1 second here. No peeky yet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be in front of you today, and I'd like to share a little bit from our friends at PG and their commitment to the growers and producers investing in Oregon's agricultural future. PG is proud to work with agricultural customers to provide safe, reliable, clean, and affordable energy to help your farms and businesses succeed and remain competitive. PG is dedicated to help supporting the development of tomorrow's workforce, whether that be in agribusiness or maintaining a state-of-the-art wind turbine, which is why PG is honored to sponsor the Powering the Future Scholarship, which we're going to do again tonight, and it's always a treat. Tonight, we will recognize and honor Savanna Franson, and I got the great pleasure of sitting next to her and her family tonight, and boy, we got a special young lady for you to meet. FFA is the premier youth organization preparing members for leadership and careers in science, business, and technologies in agriculture. With over 850,000 members across nearly 9,000 chapters, the FFA is a very distinguished brand that has become synonymous with success in the agricultural industry. Savanna Franson is a recent graduate of Mountain View High School and served as president of the Bend FFA Chapter during the 2023 and 2024 school year. During her time in FFA, she competed and participated in a wide variety of industry categories and topics, including soils, tractor driving, communications, public speaking, and veterinary science. Our president, Mike Herron's a heck of a tractor driver. Just ask him. In public speaking, Savanna won the district, sectional, and state competitions, eventually placing in the top 24 in the entire nation, right here in Oregon. She is a freshman at Oregon State University. Sorry, Duckies. I don't know what that is about Oregon. Go Bees, we always hear it. Where she is majoring in animal science and minoring in ag education. Savanna reflected on her time in FFA and had the following statement. If it weren't for my amazing experience in FFA and in the barn, I would not have found the passion for what I'm doing today. In just a moment, we'll have the pleasure of hearing from Savanna, always a hit and a key part of our annual SAIF Agri-Business Banquet. I'd like to invite to the stage my friend Jack Martin from KeyBank and Mrs. Christy Witzke from SAIF Corporation, our two main sponsors who make today possible. And Savanna, if you would mind joining me on stage, we have a presentation of a very large check. However, it is not going to be the check you cash. I already handed that off to you earlier. We're going to grab a quick picture, ladies and gentlemen, and then it's time to hear from our own Savanna Franson. Hold one moment. Savanna, on behalf of these two wonderful partners on either side of you, we're going to help you with your education a little bit. If you look right there. Thank you both. I'm going to take that from you. And allow me, if I may, a little more introduction, and then we're going to turn this over to you, Savanna. In partnership with the Salem Chamber, Portland General Electric is proud to award Savanna this $1,000 scholarship check to assist in her university tuition. Savanna, we are very much looking forward, and this is always a highlight to hear these great students, and it's a great commitment that this banquet has had for many years under the guidance of Lynn Zielinski Mills and an incredible ag committee to bring people like Savanna right here to Salem, Oregon. Ladies and gentlemen, Savanna Franson. Have fun.
First off, I want to thank everybody for taking some time and listening to my story. When you hear FFA, what's the first thing that pops in your mind? Now, I guarantee for most of you in the room, the first thing that pops in mind is future farmers of America. Now, if we were in 1988, this would be a true statement. But in today's world and society, we are the national FFA organization. We represent more than just future farmers of America now. We represent botanists, chemists, novelists, and even educators. Tonight, we're going to discuss three main ideas on how FFA and the ag community continue to align with each other. First, we're going to talk about how we are adapting with our current world and how technology is changing. Second, we're going to talk about how we can market and diversify our products that we currently are using. And finally, we are going to talk about communication and how it is the backbone of the ag industry and the world around us. Bringing me to my first point tonight on how big adaptation is for us. Now, we know that technology is playing a large role in our life. It's in our back pocket currently. Technology is at our fingertips, and the same thing's happening in the ag industry for us. We are being able to take advantage of soil probes, putting them throughout different types of fields. Now, these probes in the field are able to monitor pH, water activity, and countless other things. Now, you can see all these great things from your tablet at home in your recliner. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty sweet if I can turn on the irrigation with a tap of my finger and be nice at home with my coffee. The great part about this is how do we get kids learn and how to train them to get into these jobs? FFA and Microsoft has partnered with each other to get tablets in the classroom for FFA students to learn how to program these probes and get them ready to go. So whenever they graduate high school, they can jump right into the field and know how to process and program these items. This is a pretty cool example of just countless possibilities that FFA is trying to do to currently align us with the ag industry. Bringing me to my second point on how we're marketing and diversifying our products. Now, we all know that we cannot sell the same thing. If everybody had the same thing in this room, it would be a pretty bland dinner. But to the better extent of that, we know that our customer base has been changing, especially in the past 10 years. Farm to plate has become a much large topic. This topic is something that has changed our customer base and wanted people to know more of where their food is coming from and their fiber. This has also promoted something that I like to call ag tourism. A great example of this is Crosby Hops here in the state of Oregon. Crosby Hops has turned part of their farm into a food truck and tap house area. Here, you can drink your beer amongst the hops and understand where the crop is coming from and how it was processed. FFA is also taking advantage of types of items like this. Across the nation, FFA chapters are putting farm stands in their families' pickup lines. So as you pick up your kids from school, you also can pick up a fresh bag of produce. This way, you know where that produce came from, and you know that your kid grew it right there in class. This is a great example of how we can get ag literacy more throughout our country and our nation. Bringing me to my final point on how big communication is and how it's the backbone of our nation. Communication is gigantic, especially in today. Social media, verbal communication, being able to talk to your neighbor, and even state legislators. If we're not willing to get out there and talk to each other, we're not going to get anywhere with it. If it weren't for communication and being able to willing to talk to state legislators, I would not be here standing with you today. FFA has encouraged me to be able to talk in large crowds like this. If you would have asked me 2 years ago to talk in this crowd, I would have been crying. But now I'm able to do this with a breeze, maybe a couple stutters here and there, but I can get through it with no issues. FFA is creating leadership roles across the nation and setting us up for these great opportunities. If it wasn't for FFA and the ag industry, I would not be attending Oregon State with my animal science and a minor in ag education. That would not have been something in the back of my mind. This year, the National FFA organization hit 1 million members. That's pretty cool. Let's give FFA a round of applause for that. If we continue to back FFA and bring in kids like me, maybe we can change the 2% of America that is fed by the 100% and change it to 3%. Thank you.
It's always a tough place to be on the script behind an FFA speaker. So, I am honored to be back in front of you this evening to move to the next phase of our program, and that is to acknowledge our sponsors. But first of all, we need to acknowledge two really special people in this audience, because without them, we wouldn't have Savanna. Savanna's parents, would you please stand so we can just thank you for your daughter? The first sponsors that we want to acknowledge are with SAIF, our title sponsor. Those of you who are here tonight with SAIF, would you please stand so we can honor you and say thank you? And now the attendees that are with us from KeyBank, Jack and others. And we've mentioned previously PGE, and they're presenting their willingness to sponsor the Powering the Future scholarship, so we do appreciate them as well. And sorry they can't join us this evening. There's a long list of sponsors that are willing to contribute to this event, which help defray the cost. We want to be sure and give them a shout out. And if you happen to be in one of these companies and representing them tonight, please just stand up and pop down. That's just great. Agribusiness Real Estate Services, Altridge CPA and Advisors, Allied Video Productions. Of course, we know you're back there because you're making all the magic happen. Fisher Hayes, Joy and Allen, LLC, Oregon State University, Extension and Engagement, Singer Lewack, Accountants and Consultants, Willamette Valley Vineyards, for the fabulous wine on your table. I hope you're enjoying it because I haven't had any and I'm very parched. Just saying. So help me thank our major sponsors. Of course, we need to thank Fitzpatrick Painting, Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions, and Oregon Cattlemen's Association for being supporting sponsors. So you're welcome. A sincere thank you for the investment from our sponsors. We couldn't do this banquet and keep the cost under control and make it affordable for everyone to be in the room tonight without your generosity. So we really do appreciate that, all of you, and thank you for making time to be with us tonight. We appreciate it. Please join me in giving SAIF, KeyBank, and all of our sponsors one more giant round of applause. Okay, I hope your hands aren't tired yet. We need to recognize we have some elected officials that are in the room with us this evening that lead our local governments and also our nearby municipalities and counties. So we want to be sure and give them a shout out and thank them for making time. I know they've all probably had a very long week, especially those who are serving in, there are some of my friends call it the Marble Nut House, but I won't say that, the state capitol. So we've all had a pretty long week plowing through the bill stack. So let me just give a shout out. First of all, Oregon State Representative Kevin Mannix. I know you're here with your beautiful bride. Thank you for being here, sir. Our Polk County Commissioner Craig Pope is here with his beautiful bride, Dina. City of Kaiser Mayor Kathy Clark, thank you for being here. Kaiser City Council Sarita Cross. Thank you, Sarita. Our Kaiser City Councilor Shani Starr. Thanks, Shani, for being here. We have all of our, Chemeketa board members, Neva Hutchinson, Diane Watson, and Ken Hector. Thank you for being here. And we have some chamber past presidents in attendance, as well as our very own board of directors. Please stand to be recognized. Past President John Zielinski from Easy Orchards. If you haven't been there, you haven't lived. and TJ Sullivan. So thank you for our past presidents of the Chamber, all of the board members who are here this evening that serve the Chamber currently, Christy Witzke, Eric Templeton, Rich Duncan, Tyson Pruitt, our very own president, yes sir, Mike Herron, and me. But thank you for your service. Every year, a keystone of this event is the Chamber's dedicated volunteer agribusiness banquet work group. They do a great job in providing guidance on the logistics and speaker selection for this event, and are led by our very own Lynn Zielinski-Mills at SAIF. So thank you, Lynn, for your service, and thank you, SAIF, for allowing Lynn to serve in this capacity. She gives a great deal of time. So Lynn, we really appreciate you. Thank you. Will Lynn and her fellow Ag Banquet Committee members please stand? We need to recognize you. All of you, all y'all. And now we have the opportunity to hear from our title sponsor. Please join me at the lectern, Chip Trehune with SAIF.
Good evening. I want to welcome all of you and thank you for coming tonight. My name is Chip Trehune, and I'm the president and CEO of SAIF Corporation. It's an honor to be here. For more than 2 decades, SAIF has joined forces with the Salem Chamber to celebrate this community and what you do for our state. I want to thank Tom, his staff, and the Chamber for their excellent partnership, not only in this event, but throughout the year. I also want to recognize my amazing teammates at SAIF and just say thank you for all you do. Really, really appreciate that. Yeah, they're great. We have some guests at our table. I'm just going to take a moment to introduce some of them. Andy and Brittany Kramer of Kramer Farms. Just want to say thank you for joining us at the SAIF table. Eric and Stacy Lloyd, of course, from Oregon Risk Management Solutions and Oregon Fire Safety Solutions. Thank you very much for being a part of this. And then, awkwardly, my former boss, who was a SAIF board member, Jeff Stone of the Oregon Association of Nurseries, and his amazing wife, who everyone likes much more than him, Jeanne Satellino. There. In my defense, under the threat of having my dessert actually confiscated, I have been asked not to deviate from this script because I tend to drone on and on endlessly. I also have been asked not to offer my usual 197-slide PowerPoint presentation. To quote Tom at the Chamber, no, never, no, please don't, no. I'll continue to read here from the script. All of you help Oregon thrive, not just with world-class products that you deliver, but the way you nurture the communities you serve. You do both. There are very few industries that do that and do that as well as you. On this night, I often talk about SAIF's mission of serving Oregon's employers and workers. Service is a core value to SAIF. We call it delivering with heart, and I'm proud to say that our strong partnership with Oregon's ag industry helps us do that. I want to make sure that you and your employees, your ag family, go home safe and sound every single day. But equally, we are here to support you, your workers, and their families when injuries do happen to occur. I do want to just tell you one story of what that support actually looks like, and I promise I'll make it a quick one. In December of 2022, a dairy farm worker had a workplace accident that resulted in the amputation of his hand. From the start, his employer collaborated with our team at SAIF to help him return to work when he was able. They worked with our return to work consultant to identify modified tasks that didn't require the use of his injured arm. The employer personally performed and recorded a video of the tasks to ensure the safety and feasibility of the work. And as you might imagine, an injury like that has a big psychological component. Our claims adjuster at SAIF helped not only address the physical injury, but the mental struggles that came with such a traumatic event. Dedicated care, mental health counseling, and encouragement from his employer helped this worker to work the summer after his injury. The worker had some fear about going back to work, understandably so, but he was determined to try. His return was gradual, starting with shorter shifts and slowly building up to a full day's works. This is what happens when I read a script and I don't actually ad lib, which is, I have to say, like, I'm getting good points for reading this. Thank you, appreciate that, that's good. Our team at SAIF carefully planned these steps to prioritize his safety and support his confidence in navigating his new role. This approach fostered a profound sense of accomplishment and growth. And now, I'm pleased to say he is thriving. This was an injury that changed his life, but it's also a story of empowerment, determination, and success. I'm so proud of the collaboration our team at SAIF had with this worker and his employer. This worker's story is just one of many. Our partnership with employers like you can make all the difference when an injury actually occurs. Thank you for helping us deliver with heart. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that at SAIF, our vision is to make Oregon the safest and healthiest place to work. We have a network of safety professionals that are dedicated to helping employers prevent injuries and make their workplace safer. One of the ways we do that is to host our free agricultural safety seminars. And for 3 decades, we have toured the state offering safety education you can take back to the farm or shop. And this year, no different. By the end of March, we will have held 31 seminars in 16 cities in Oregon in English and Spanish. You can also find them online. I'll close by telling you how honored I am to spend the evening with all of you tonight. And I want to call out tonight's FFA honoree, Savanna, as a shining example of how bright the future is for this ag community. And Savanna, I look forward to working for you in the not too distant future. Right? On behalf of everyone at SAIF, I want to say thank you for everything you do and for your partnership in keeping workers safe and healthy. Our main partner in bringing you this annual event is KeyBank. Please join me in welcoming my friend and international man of mystery, Ernesto Toscovich, Senior Vice President, KeyBank.
Two things. Chip, who says that you're long-winded? Whenever I meet for lunch with you, you give me wonderful thoughts, and you always give me a book to read, which I do read. So you're amazing. And second thing, back on the story that you just shared, my sister works at Salem Hospital, and she's working with SAIF Corporation. She injured her shoulder, and she says you guys are amazing. She talks with your people. You are the best. So thank you for everything you do. Good evening. It's so wonderful to see you all. It's such a privilege to be among all of you. All of us have achieved certain success in life. Some of us own companies, some of us employ people, or manage land that feeds many families. Have you ever stopped and thought, what's all that worth? What is the value of what you created? How do you calculate that? What impacts the value? Is it interest rates? Is it inflation? Yes, to a certain extent. But living in multiple countries, I will tell you, the most important value driver is the strength and stability of the country that we live in. And it's the strength and stability of communities that we live in. Is the country strong enough to protect us, but also to protect your property rights and protect you and whatever you do? Farmers, loggers, dairymen, ranchers have formed this country throughout few centuries of its existence. And they don't focus on fleeting new trends or ideologies. They focus on ensuring food and crop security for our people. And that's why I'm so honored to be among all of you here. Thank you. Thank you for what you do for our community, and thank you for what you do for each other. We at KeyBank, this year we are celebrating 200 years of our existence. For the last 200 years, we have stood alongside agricultural community, supporting your efforts to provide food, crops, and stability to your communities. We are thankful to our clients who work with us and who trust us. Thank you. And now it's my honor to present to you our featured speaker, Jeanne Carver. Starting in the late 1980s, Jeanne Carver and her late husband, Dan, owned and operated the historic Imperial Stock Ranch, which has produced sheep, cattle, grains, and hay for more than 150 years. With a focus on stewarding natural resources, the Carvers collaborated with agency partners in 1989 on a conservation management plan for their entire operation that prioritized soil and grassland health with grazing animals as the primary tool. As the offshoring of textile manufacturing caused a wool market collapse in 1999, Jeanne pioneered the approach of taking her wool directly to market. She built fiber supply chain relationships, connecting the ranch heritage and mindful land and animal stewardship to the products. She built a growing customer base for textiles with an attachment to place. Her efforts eventually took them to the world stage as a partner to well-known fashion brands. At national trade shows and in segments of US fashion industry, Jeanne became known as the farmer market of textiles. Notably, she has been the voice and source of American wool for Ralph Lauren's team, US Olympic uniforms since 2014, one of the uniforms. In 2016, Imperial Stock Ranch became the first ranch in the world certified by the leading global standard for sheep and wool production, Responsible Wood Standard. With demand increasing for US wool meeting with the standards, Jeanne launched Shaniko Wool Company in 2018. Today, she continues to be a global voice for responsible animal fiber standards and a leader in the development of a fully certified textile supply chain meeting these standards. Jeanne is co-author of Stories of Fashion, Textiles and Place, Evolving Sustainable Supply Chains, and is a recipient of the American Sheep Industry Innovation Award and the Oregon State University College of Agricultural Sciences Hall of Fame Award. Please join me in welcoming Jeanne Carver to the stage.
It is really, really an honor to be here tonight. Thank you so much, the people responsible for inviting me. I don't know how you got that figured out. Unlike Savanna, I have notes as the country song you didn't sing yet. Where's that band? Are they here? Oh, love it. You know that song, I'm Not As Good As I Once Was? Well, it's true. And you stop right there because the next phrase is, but I'm as good once as I ever was. It's not true. Just stop with the first part. Hey, you know what? There's socks on your bread plate. Did you see that? It's the first time I've ever seen socks allowed on the dinner table. Don't forget to take your socks. For those of you I know there's at least one sheep herder here. Where are you, Orville? Thank you for being here tonight. These are 19-micron Shaniko wool, washed and combed in Jamestown, South Carolina, spun in Pickens, South Carolina, and knit right there in the same place. That's the whole supply chain. So take them home and try them. And there's a Shaniko wool website on here, so if you really like them, email me. I'll give you the link if you ever want more. But take these home and try them out. It's your story, just like these jackets from Paris this summer. This is an incredible Oregon story, and you're all part of it. So I really thank you for inviting me here tonight. My story is one of an unexpected journey down a timeless but largely forgotten road. It's a story many of you are going to relate to, with its beginning on the Oregon Trail, a story of pioneering and resilience that continues to require those same traits today. We're still pioneering, and we're fighting to remain relevant and sustainable as a family business and as an industry. Oh, where's that thing? Right there. Thank you. This was my husband, Dan Carver. I always think I can get through this without emotions, but probably not. I show you this photo because I can't tell my story without telling his. He grew up on the Nestucca River on the Oregon coast. Many of you will know that area. His grandfathers logged. I told you I had a logging story. His father logged and Dan logged to pay his way through Oregon State University. But he always said how he hated to take the big trees down because he loved them. Growing up on the Oregon coast, he and his father spent any free time there was hanging out in the Owyhee country, Oregon's outback, as he said, to dry out. Dan loved equally the Oregon coast and the desert, and these experiences began two things in him: a dream to ranch in the Oregon desert, and a dream and a commitment to see the land win, no matter where that land was. After college, he went off to Vietnam as a young production engineer, and he was always a systems thinker. He saw the whole, maybe because he was so closely focused and connected to nature. He saved every dollar he was paid during those years and came home to start a business. He knew having his own business was the best way to get ahead financially. With degrees in engineering and business from Oregon State, he set out to make his way, like the pioneers always did. He built a business here in the Willamette Valley, and when he could afford it, he bought his first small farm to do what he loved. His business success eventually allowed him to buy into his dream, and he was able to purchase the heart of a historic ranching empire east of the mountains in Oregon's high desert country in the late 1980s. When Dan and I married, we became partners in every way, the way husbands and wives do. I took on every role that was required as his partner with the family and with the businesses, as you will see. Our together story begins at the Imperial Stock Ranch. It was established in 1871 as a 160-acre homestead claim by a young man who had been born on the Oregon Trail in an ox cart as his family came west. They came right here to the Willamette Valley. This was the promised land. You got deep soil, lots of rain, and not all the rocks we got east of the mountains. And so he grew up dreaming of being a stockman, not a farmer. And at 19, he saddled his horse, packed his pack horses, strapped on his trusty six-shooters, and headed over the Cascade Mountains into Oregon's interior. He filed on his homestead in 1871, and eventually the Imperial Stock Ranch became the largest individually owned land and livestock holding in the state of Oregon by 1900, producing the sheep, cattle, grains, and hay, as you mentioned. And sheep was the greatest production focus for the first 100 years of the ranch. This is our 154th year of continuous operation. So we're located in the high desert, about 90 miles north of Bend and 100 years away from it, as my husband always said. Yeah, he was a quote machine. That's what the newspaper people used to say. Our annual rainfall is 8 inches in a good year, although we haven't seen that in 5 or 6. Mostly in agriculture, as you know. We raise a harvest and sell it as a commodity. And his focus all through the 1980s was on increasing the health of natural resources, soil, grasslands, and water. We believe the healthier the land, the healthier your harvest, which improves the economics of your bottom line and ensures your future. And by 1989, working with our local agency partners, he had created that conservation management plan, considering all aspects of the operation, the farming and the livestock. We set up monitoring and began implementing a host of changes in how things were done. And about the same time, something really important happened. Our Fish and Wildlife Department reported that only 2 salmon had returned to spawn in Buck Hollow Creek. What a wake-up call. We are the birthplace of 2 creeks, Bake Oven Creek and Buck Hollow. Both of them empty into the Deschutes River, a wild and scenic Oregon desert river. And you think, how have we contributed? What has our part done? And it was a motivation to think differently. The news that salmon runs were near extinction was a big wake-up call, and so we began the work. A comprehensive rotational grazing strategy of stimulating plants and then letting them rest and recover was one of the first and most critical steps. This was much like the herded bands of sheep earlier in our history, except now it was fencing and rotations. Dan was applying his systems thinking to managing soil, plants, grazing animals, and the interconnected relationships between them all. A thoughtful and intentional managed grazing program. We changed and strategically placed how we provided salt and mineral. And we developed about 150 off-stream watering points to protect stream corridors and sensitive riparian areas and provide water for wildlife and livestock up high in the top of the country. All those steps would better manage soil health, conserve and improve water, and facilitate all species. Is this not working? Oh, good. I saw myself up there. I'm not so good with the technology. It's back to Savanna in the future. It's a good thing we got you, I can tell you that. Yes. So we also farm 4,000 acres. We don't have any irrigation. It's all dry land. So every drop God gives us is precious. Traditionally, you left the land fallow every other year, and you got a crop every second year. Those years of fallow exposed the land. It was exposed. It was bare. It had no growing plants in it. And it led to erosion, and that loss of soil silted in those creeks and affected habitat for other species. That fallow land was an invitation to invasive weeds. We used a lot of fossil fuel driving equipment over those fields, fighting the weeds, then leveling it, and then picking the rocks. Why do I keep showing up there? What happened to the picture? Thank you. It's just throwing me off. I don't want to be looking at me. That's a lot better. Anyway, there we were driving over the fields 5 times in a year. You don't even get a harvest. And Dan one day said, you know, every time we go over that field, we lose our moisture to evaporation. We're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to do this. He parked the plow in 1996 and said, we will never plow again. And he converted 4,000 acres of dry land crop ground to no-till with annual plantings. And then we put the livestock over it every year, and we mulched in all that crop residue, and we naturally fertilized and prepared that seed bed, and we eliminated all those fields, all those trips over the field, and over time, the soil improved. We were building soil instead of losing it. Imagine that. And our available water increased. We did not work alone. It's not moving. There we go. We did not work alone. Dan worked with our agency partners, and they got every landowner in the basin involved, 27 farmers and ranchers, all working collaboratively to see, could we change the fate of those fish in the creek? Could we in our lifetime? We didn't know if we could, but we tried collaboratively. And within 20 years, 2010, we had thousands of salmon spawning in Buck Hollow Creek again. Salmon are one of the greatest indicator species of the health of our entire system, and these indicators tell us our future. The Buck Hollow Project inspired the model for a statewide plan later called the Oregon Plan. This had been our only focus, tending this amazing landscape and the animals created to graze it. We've always recognized we're temporary stewards, and it's our responsibility to do the best we can while it's our turn. And then 1999 happened. Here we were, focused on ranching, selling our harvest business as usual. But in 1999, we had been selling our wool to the same company for 100 years. It's all you knew. It's all you knew. And we were always proud. We thought we got top price. That year, we sheared the sheep. Dan called up the buyer and said, what's the price this year? What will we get for our harvest? And the guy said, we're really sorry, folks. We're not buying. We're closing our processing and going offshore like everybody else. We don't blame that company for trying to adapt, to find a way to create in a changing marketplace. My husband gave me a challenge because that call profoundly changed our life. There I am again. Dan said, what did I do? Did I do something? Thank you. Dan said, okay, either find out a way to sell what the sheep give us so the sheep will be gone off this land. How do you tell the Creator what we've been given doesn't matter anymore? That call brought offshoring to our doorstep. The shift in fashion and textile manufacturing came to us with no warning that day, and we were stunned. Tens of thousands of sheep producers in America have gone out of the sheep business. We've lost that industry, largely because of that offshoring. We had such a deep, 26,000 sheep producers in the U.S. went out of the sheep business between 96 and 2000. Devastating. And I can repeat this story around the world as manufacturing has changed. But we had this rich history with sheep, and so has all of humankind. How do you say they don't matter anymore? I was given the new challenge, and I had to find a way. From that day forward, I'm moving it. Now I'm not really good at this, am I? From that day forward, I took us from ranch to retail. Yes, I know I cut her head off. But I want you to see the clothes. That was more important. I built supply chain relationships to transform the greasy wool and wholesale and retail relationships with brands and stores, eventually working with some of the most influential brands in North America known around the world. It didn't happen overnight. And we didn't do it alone. Just as we had done with natural resource experts and our Oregon State Extension people and all the people that contributed to our plan on the land, I connected with fiber artisans in our region as well as wool processing and manufacturing as close to home as I could. We built it one step at a time, and I never dreamed what it would become. I just wanted to keep sheep on the land. The regional fiber artisans helped me learn, and they transformed our sunlight harvest into finished goods. Eventually, we had more than 20 of them working for us. We connected them to the roots of food and fiber and the beginning of the value chain. And they connected me to things I'd never even really thought about: the importance of traditional skills, the ability to spin a fiber and ply it and create yarn, which leads to knit and woven fabrics and clothing, the things that every culture must do since time began and until we're no longer here. And I had no idea all the things that I didn't know or the lessons that would come. We made the ranch to runway shift at the same time. And the chefs embraced us immediately. This was 25 years ago. This is 1999. These chefs are all world-class chefs. Andre Soltner of New York, Dominique Cerrone. This was the most famous French chef alive at the time. These guys came to Oregon and held this amazing dinner right here in the Willamette Valley at Domaine Serene to raise money to support the children of the fallen firefighters of 9/11. And I was there in the kitchen as they prepared our lamb, the premier course for that dinner. These world-class chefs. They got a big kick out of my vest because I was wearing the skin of one of the market lambs. Food has been far, far ahead in the where did it come from and how that we're now seeing in fashion and textiles. Even the skins of the market lambs became part of our textile program. We used every part of it. And all the people that became part of our life, from the chefs and the restaurants to the textile supply chain, made my life richer and made it possible for us to sell the harvest. Pairing our wool products with our long heritage and our leading agricultural practices was instinctive. We had been implementing that conservation plan for 10 years at that point, and we were seeing amazing changes. I just told the truth. I just told what was happening, and it proved to be at the leading edge of the culture, and it resonated with authenticity. We brought traceability and connection to the product. We were building a brand too, but I didn't know that because I didn't know anything about a brand or marketing or any of it. And everyone was involved. Every worker on our ranch, we're so proud of this program. Every ranch wife had a new job. Local artisans, the local photographers, models, print companies, the post office, my UPS man. They were all part of the Olympic story eventually. Many, many hands were touching our journey, and they were all part of it. And I was busy telling the sunlight story, right? The magic of seeds and soil and sunlight and grasses and grazing animals, and how sheep convert that plant protein into all the proteins that have given us life today, in the future, and for 10,000 years, and how we are called, all of us, every citizen, to honor that. Whoops. We were drawing so many visitors, agritourism, way back then. Thousands of people I have toured through our ranch on appointment, you know. But the crafting enthusiasts wanted to visit the source of the yarns. We became the site of the original destination experience for Vogue out of New York. World-class retreats with world-class instruction in the fiber arts. They were immersion experiences with a combination of a history, a walking tour of our very historic headquarters, 22 acres of grounds and buildings, all the buildings built in the days of horsepower, still there, still in use. They were progressive agricultural practices tours. They were sheep, meet the sheep, the dogs, the horses, cowboys. Instruction in fiber arts, great culinary experiences, guest chefs from our meat customers, our restaurants, and fiber shopping all in one. We took people to the roots of food and fiber, as many of you do, connecting them to our work in an intimate way. But more importantly, I learned is that we were connecting them to their own histories and agriculture. I took our story on the road, including the sheep. It's always entertaining when I go through a drive-up window because I don't want to leave the lamb in the vehicle by itself, and I go through the drive-up window with a lamb in your lap. It's really entertaining. I took our story on the road, including the sheep, to numerous events to support our retail partners who became part of our family, and our family keep getting bigger. It's important to know I didn't plan any of this. I didn't have a business plan. I wouldn't have known how to write one. I was not a wool expert. I didn't know what retail and wholesale were when I started this. I didn't even know what a margin was. I knew nothing. And I was not only not a fashion designer, I didn't even know how to knit. A lot of people thought I did, they just assumed it. But the biggest thing that I had going was that I didn't know I couldn't do it, right? I didn't know that. And I'm fiercely competitive. And when people told me, wool has no value, just dump it, and you can't make anything in America anymore, it made me angry. And I guess I set out to prove them wrong. After all, everything you've seen is a gift of creation. Everything we ate tonight is a gift of creation that has provided us since the beginning of time. And so on we went with yarns, with home fashions, made knits, wovens, all the lambskins off our market lambs, all going into our products in textiles, and eventually to the Olympics. It was 2012, and it was the second call that would change our life. August, we were in harvest, all that dry land crops, right? We came in for lunch. There were 15 phone messages, and they were all about my wool business. So I took the phone outside so I wouldn't disturb Dan while he ate his lunch in his recliner and watched Wall Street go across the bottom of the screen. And I started answering those phone calls, and one of them was a product development researcher from Polo Ralph Lauren in New York. And when he said who he was, I said, who? Who are you? Anyway, he said who he was. He says, I'm sitting right here on Madison Avenue. And I said, that is amazing, because I'm sitting out in the middle of the Oregon desert. In fact, I'm outside right now. Can you hear the sheep? Almost a year later, I would meet that man in person in New York, and I saw the cubicle he worked from in the high-rise on the 7th floor of 650 Madison Avenue, and his office had not a window. It was stacked floor to ceiling with textile samples. He barely had desk space, and it was piled. You could barely walk in there. And in that moment, he heard the bah, bah, and the jingle of the bells. When I came back on, I said, did you hear them? He goes, that is amazing. I said, no, it's amazing. You're calling me. How in the world did you find me? But he did, and I sold my heart out. And he called me every day for a month. And a month later, they sent a design team, and we took them out on the land. Then we fed them. We walked them through the historic buildings, and finally I showed them the textiles, and they clutched the yarn to their chest. And I said, hey, maybe this could happen. Maybe this could really happen. And 6 months later, we got the largest yarn order of our life up till then, which became, and many of you will remember, the first Made in America Team USA uniforms. Besides buying our, yes. And it was this Oregon story of pioneering, resilience, adaptation, and resilience. And so they not only bought the wool and made the uniforms, they told our story. They worked with 41 companies in America to make that first batch of uniforms for an Olympic team. 41 companies. They only told one story, and it was ours. Why? We're the beginning of the value story, and we were the only ranchers they had worked with. So that's why. And that sent brand after brand to our door. They were the ones, I used to say to Dan, if only somebody would come down this dirt road and see who we are and what we do and why it matters. I know many of you have had the same feeling. It could make all the difference. If only we could get over the edge, right? They did that. Their story of us gave us credibility in a way I could never have had. That resulted in a lot of awards. I know Mallory's here tonight. We got the Oregon Agriculture Connection Award in 2014 for connecting our customers and the brands to the product, the origin of the product. I received an Orchid Award from the Portland Business Journal for Women of Influence, and I was named one of 9 female farmers by the Pratt Fashion Institute in New York. 9 women farmers changing the fashion industry. It was all beyond anything we had dreamed. In apparel and textiles, we know there's been this giant shift. Our regional and domestic production models that we all experienced earlier in our history have shifted to global ones. They're massive. And what it has done is it's produced this disconnect between products and place. Not just the place of their origin, but the processes of going from harvest to product and the people that actually execute with those skills. This is a huge concern because knowing these origin stories, knowing the skills, and having those skills is important to every culture and every nation in the world, including America. We cannot lose them. Today, we have less than 10% of the textile infrastructure remaining in the United States we once had. It's about 7%. And textiles was our first industry in a fledgling United States. It's the very first industry we had as a country, and we've almost let it completely diminish. This timeless work, largely forgotten today, is not recognized nor valued, and yet it's still needed for human survival. So, we've diminished in this disconnect the importance of place. And when you do that, you diminish the motivation for stewardship of those places. It devalues our products, it breeds distrust in the companies that sell them, and it results in negative environmental and climate impacts. So the journey we'd been on for all these decades as stewards of the land prepared us for the work that would come next. The next major call that we got was Patagonia. In the summer of 2015, PETA had exposed Patagonia for animal abuse in their wool supply in South America. I can't make this move. Maybe the masters in the back can move it. Thank you. And we should have just set that up in the first place. I'm not really good at this. So Patagonia called, and with this terrible financial hit they were taking over exposing animal abuse in their supply chain, they wanted to rebuild. But they were working globally with a bunch of brands and nonprofits, activist groups in animal welfare and land conservation on a new global standard that would set the benchmarks for land care and animal welfare, and eventually they added workers into this whole thing. And they built this third-party standard. Patagonia asked us to be audited to this standard. And we decided we had nothing to lose and everything to gain because it would showcase good practices in agriculture. When that standard launched in 2016, our Imperial Stock Ranch became the first ranch in the world certified, and I've been the voice and face of that standard since globally. We went with this because we saw it, like I said, as an opportunity, and I felt it was important for us to remain competitive in the global wool market. Today, the RWS is the leading standard in the world for sheep and wool production, and I can't tell you how important this is all around the world. In the past 7 years, the growth has been exponential. It's evidence that the importance of full traceability in our product supply chains, transparency is increasing. It's evidence that third-party certification will increasingly be important, that land, animal, and worker welfare must be addressed for today's brands and consumers because it de-risks them from association with land degradation and animal abuse. And increasingly, measuring our impacts is going to underlie our ability to be market competitive. This comprehensive standard addresses land, animal, and worker welfare. We meet more than 275 criteria or benchmarks to be certified. With increasing requests from brands for a fully traceable, sustainable, and certified wool supply, we decided to launch a new company and take our work beyond Imperial Stock Ranch. And so we started Shaniko Wool Company. How many of you know where Shaniko is? Oregon's most famous ghost town. Yeah, it was a rail shipping center. It's 12 miles from our ranch headquarters. You can ride a horse from our house right up to Shaniko and tie up at the hotel and not leave our ranch. But Shaniko was a way to honor a greater American story than just us and to bring more people into the work. So Shaniko was founded in 18 to scale the supply of wool. It's not a co-op. It's privately owned and operated by me, making us very, very different from all the other global wool certified supplies in the world. All the rest of them are owned by large global wool brokers and corporations. Shaniko Wool is continuing the work that we have done in the United States with our domestic textile manufacturers, and is continuing Dan's legacy in stewardship. Pictured here is the sweaters and uniforms from 2022's Winter Olympics, and that's Shaniko Wool for the first time. It's more families than us, and they are so, so proud to be a part. I was building relationships with, I'm trying to move this again, within the U.S. manufacturing sector. So today we had many of these partners following us down this road of certification. Spinning mills, dye houses, knitters, the weavers who are left, all moved towards certification in 2022. We added Nativa regenerative certification for our ranches. Currently, there are 10 ranches that are part of Shaniko Wool. Maybe I'm supposed to point it. There we go. I need lessons, Savanna. Actually, she doesn't need a script. They're all in the western U.S., and collectively we graze more than 2.6 million acres. Remember that number. It's going to be very important as I close. We're sharing 500,000 pounds of merino and merino cross fiber each year. Shaniko Wool is the only wool produced in the U.S. and North America that meets these leading global third-party standards, and the ranchers are receiving 20 to 25% more for their fiber because we're in this certification. I'm not sure where these pictures are now. Oh, there we go. We're grazing in 7 states, and all the large wool warehouses in the West are certified under my company to critical to traceability and content claims. Our wool production includes microns from 16 to 25, but as a group, we have the finest wool produced in the United States, making us a premium in demand for fashion brands. All the ranches are multi-generational family operations like us that have been on our lands 100 years or more, and they all work with their local agencies focused on resource management. So up until now, and this is really going into my close, up until now we had, and all of us in agriculture know, our observations are very valid. They're very important, right? When you live on your land and you've been there day after day, year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation, you know if you're making improvements or you're not. Our observations have validity. But it's really hard today for people to take our word for it. So up to now, we had observations, yield data, species counts, third-party audits to these leading standards, agency testimony, but we had never actually measured the impacts of our operations. In the winter of 19, I was talking with a major fashion brand about sourcing our wool. And this person in a high-rise in a city straight out challenged me with livestock agriculture that we destroy the soil, pollute the water, and put methane in the atmosphere. And I mean, it's like a knife in your heart. It's just hard to hear it. It's hard to hear it. We had all this behind us, but how could I prove to them? How could I tell this person, this team of people, that we genuinely were ranching in a way that was positive for the earth? How? I had no proof. So when I got done being mad, because I was really mad, I knew that my next step was to go forward and figure out how to measure the impacts of what we do. So in early 2020, we responded to this increasing concern over the environmental impacts of agriculture, specifically animal agriculture and sheep and wool production. So I found a scientist at OSU. I don't know if anybody, is there any OSU faculty here tonight? Well, we ended up with a team of soil and range scientists, 5 PhDs from OSU, that combined with me to launch a comprehensive research and measurement initiative I called the Shaniko Wool Carbon Initiative. This effort also continues the legacy of my husband, who wanted to see the earth win. Well, now we were going to measure it. We were going to find out the truth. And I didn't know what we would get. I only wish he could have lived to see the results I'm going to share with you. One thing I did know is we were going to keep being challenged. Whoops. So we set out to determine the ecosystem and climate impacts of every ranching operation in our farm group, 2.6 million acres. They thought I was crazy. They thought I was just going to work on our ranch. Once we got started, I said, now we're moving it out. Our initiative includes peer scientific review of our research model, sampling protocols, data analysis, findings, and a feedback loop to the farmers and ranchers. Here's some of the things we actually know. If our soil and carbon was going to be, soil organic carbon would be a key performance indicator because it's measurable. If soil carbon levels are increasing significantly over time, additional positive benefits will include increases in soil, well, you see it, you're reading it. That list, okay? Our data, if our data shows that we are improving carbon storage, then it would mean that we are building more resilient ecosystems through regenerative management that's more than a list of practices that's measured and verified. This would be the proof of any claim that you're regenerative. This was the model we used. I'm going to flip through this really quick. Our sampling protocols had to be credible, representative. We used GIS soil scientists to help us locate those. The number of sampling points had to be credible. For the first 1.5 million acres, it would have been recommended we'd have 140. We put down 236. We used not only on-the-ground annual sampling of soils, biomass, soil moisture probing, and then all of the analysis at OSU. Soils went through one lab, biomass goes through another. We're tracking nitrogen levels, and then we had to calculate for all of our inputs, our electrical use, our equipment, our methane emissions, our inputs. So at the end of the day, what's our net environmental impact? So in the first 3 years of data on our ranch in Oregon, which I will reveal to you, on that high desert landscape, dry land farming, livestock grazing, 150 some years, 8 inches of rain maybe, our net impact is we are adding in the first 4 years of the study, first year is a baseline, and we add, then we measure. We are adding 1.86 tons of carbon net into our soils in that environment. This is unbelievable. That's 60,000 tons of carbon net we're banking. That's an environmental deliverable we don't get credit for, people don't know, and it has value today. It's like removing 218,000 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere, and our net greenhouse gas emissions value is a negative number. This is a graph of our carbon capture. Going left to right, the green are spring measurements, the brown were fall. I'm going to move right through it because we don't have time to hold on this, but what I'm going to tell you is it's the greatest work I've ever done. It's the greatest work we can do in agriculture. It proves a value that's perhaps our greatest deliverable. Dan would have been so proud, but he didn't live to see these results. He was gone. An ecosystem services company have found us. They've been working with us since 2022. I actually have 4 or 5 trying to sign us. I had our son sign our ranch 3 years ago. He's entering year 4 of his carbon contract. That returns about $300,000 to him a year, additional besides selling beef, lamb, wool, grains, and hay. It's a new income stream, and it can be a game changer for family agriculture, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to ask you a question afterwards tonight to our representatives. These carbon companies that we're working with, these ecosystem service companies, bring oversight to our research. They provide another layer of credibility. They bring a framework for investment by those who want to purchase the quality credits we're building, whether those are offsets or insets. It supports our livelihood. It supports the mission of improved ecosystems. It supports companies purchasing our credits who move their companies toward their sustainability targets and net zero. It helps accelerate action on the ground. This is really, really an important new stakeholder in our agricultural world. They register these credits after they're measured and verified on the leading carbon registries in the world. And Shaniko Farm Group has been approved because of our scale as its own project to deliver credits to the markets. All of my ranchers are now being signed on for these contracts, and it's the greatest victory I will have ever achieved in my life, besides family, is to bring this new income stream to the ranchers that I can bring it to. This collective work makes these kinds of relationships possible with our customers, whether they be food companies or fashion companies. Janessa Leone, a fashion designer from Los Angeles, who makes these incredible products and markets them as a regenerative, carbon-negative collection of natural wool pullovers produced in partnership with Shaniko Wool Company. I have to tell you, a couple months ago, Ralph Lauren called me, not him, but one of his people. I've never actually met him. I saw him walk by once at 650 Madison Avenue, and when I realized who it was too late. He was already out of sight down the hallway, and I was like, darn, I missed my chance to go, hi, I'm Jeanne from Oregon. But I have ridden in David Lauren's limo, so. What was I going to tell you? Oh, they asked me a couple of months ago because they know what I'm doing with this, and I'm setting the stage for them to not only buy the wool, but purchase the additional investment in the credits we're building and be our partner in regenerative agricultural production and move their company toward net zero. They called to ask me, how much money should we set aside as we get ready to move forward on this? I didn't have an answer for them. Just start with like 3 or 4 million. I said, I'm joking, but probably not. So I guess I want to tell you, this isn't just any wool anymore, nor are we a marketing slogan. This work, this measurement, this research, Oregon State University, bless them for being committed to this work. We're going to present it this summer in June in Australia at the International Rangeland Congress. Oregon State will present the research piece, and I will present my story at the International Congress on Rangeland. But this work shows we are capable of not only delivering food and fiber in support of humankind, but delivering it with a net positive impact to nature. It increases our value to our customers, and it brings a new investment opportunity. Our collective, I think I'm way past that. I think I just want to tell you, oh, King Charles. I have no idea where I am, except that we have been building connections to place through this work for 25 years. Things have happened because of this work. Things I never dreamed of. Awards, books, but one of the most unexpected was to be featured in the book on the life and legacy of King Charles that was launched on his 75th birthday in London a year ago, November. And our story is featured in it, a 4-page feature because of our work in the provenance of wool attached to product. And so I was invited to the party in London. I wore Shaniko wool, of course, and it was a very fancy event. I've worked with Ralph Lauren and Team USA for the last 3 Winter Olympics, but it was particularly point of pride this summer to see them put wool. This is for you, to put wool on the stage in the fashion capital of the world, Paris, in the Summer Olympics, because there's no better suiting in the world. No better performance fiber was ever created superior to what God gave us in wool. So for all the families and people associated with these ranches and with agriculture, you should be proud of this story. And I'd just like to say that I want to thank you for inviting me to be here with you tonight. My journey, as does yours, continues. The work never gets easier. The challenges will always be there. But like many others in family agriculture, we're carrying on, we're surviving, and we'll continue to pioneer new directions in response to changing markets. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, thank you. As you dismiss, if you want to come get your photo with the Olympic jackets, feel free to do that tonight. Touch some of Oregon's pride.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. As a member of the planning committee for this event every year, I am not sure how we're going to follow that, other than maybe just invite Jeanne to come back then you invite all of your friends who didn't get to hear her because they missed it, don't you think? I give her another round of applause, please. I think every farmer and rancher needs to hear your story, Jeanne, because you are truly an inspiration. And what an inspiration to all of us who have the day-to-day responsibilities to carry big duties and big loads of responsibility into big conversations, and we wonder how we're going to do it, but we continue to persevere and be resilient. But you are an inspiration, and so thank you again very much. I can't wait to wear my socks. How about you? How was your meal tonight? I had the beef and it was fabulous. You know, beef is what's for dinner. Those of you who had chicken, it's not shaming you. Enjoy your protein, whatever you choose. Let's give a big round of applause to all of the service staff here at the Salem Convention Center. We love you much. And my parting words as I bring our CEO for the chamber back to the front to take us across the finish line is to say thank you again to all of our farmers and ranchers in the room tonight. We love you, we appreciate you, we applaud you, we know you are the stewards of the earth, and we appreciate every single thing you do, and thank you for feeding us. God bless.
Jeanne, in our industry, one of the statements we say in our staff team led by Jackie Ellerbrock, and we do have the most special staff team, it's, I'd follow you anywhere. And you're incredibly inspirational, and thank you for showing one of Oregon's best sides to the rest of the nation. And quite honestly, I think Ralph Lauren is the one who missed the opportunity to meet you. Well done. I'd like to thank that professional staff in the back of the room, and our partners at Allied Video are absolutely incredible, and we partner with them on many of our events, and One of their co-owners, Brian, is here tonight. In fact, he's the man right in the middle. Brian, give a wave. Incredibly talented team at Allied in the back of the room. Thank you so much for what you do. We're going to give a couple thank yous here and then get you on your way. Dayton FFA stepped up to provide all these flowers on stage. Those were not my idea. Lynn and her team have everything covered. And I'd include that in thanking Oregon Seed Company for our centerpieces. I went to Lynn and I'm like, oh, where are our centerpieces? And she goes, Tom, there's seeds in there. So Lynn and her team always have everything covered. Thank you to Oregon Seed Cleaning LLC for their contribution. Gregory Dean has been wandering around. Gregory, give a wave right here. He's our photographer tonight. Now, you may not think, oh gosh, what are the product? It's after the event. You get to appreciate Gregory Dean so much for his visual images tonight. And if you are looking to have a photographer who is incredibly personable at your next event, Gregory, I very much encourage you to connect with Gregory. Thank you for your work tonight. Want to thank, that's right. I tonight am wearing a Willamette Valley Vineyards vest. Jim Bernot and his company are so incredibly generous to the Salem Chamber. And there's some people here tonight that I want to recognize. We have a number of our Leadership Salem participants. Would you stand right now if you're in our Leadership Salem class? Yesterday, all these individuals got to tour Willamette Valley Vineyards. Great job in showing up today, and I'd like to say they are leaders in their own right. They're just honing their skills, and if you are interested in discovering a little more about that, I hope you connect with our staff team on that. Mindy Smith at SAIF, thank you so much for your work on all of the visual imagery. Christy and Chip make their team so available, and we'll talk about one of them just in a second. The Roundhouse Band, all right. Live music is an art that we just have to appreciate. We listen, we all live and express ourselves through the music we listen to, but it's all pre-recorded, and it's something we have on our phones and in our cars. But these guys bring first-class performances many times during the year. This Sunday, the Roundhouse Duet will be performing at Redgate Winery in Independence from 2 to 4 p.m. No cover charge, and I am told off-the-hook pizza. So that's a selling point for everyone. If you'd like to bring the Roundhouse Band to your next event, please do so. They're incredibly affordable. They are awesome professionals. And to have professionals like that right here in our Salem community, we need to rally around them. And join me in expressing our thanks to the Roundhouse Band. Roundhouse-band.com. Okay, Salem Convention Center, as Tammy mentioned, thank you so much for your hospitality and your work today. The Shaniko Wool Company for our wool socks, I look forward to throwing those on. Our Salem Chamber ambassadors, please stand. You are in your blue jackets or vests. This is the welcoming line to the Salem Chamber. We're a couple days removed from Barb's birthday, but it's her piano 88th year, and that's one special lady, always looking for a date. She reminds me of that. She's as foxy as it gets, but you better be high energy, gentlemen. Our Salem Chamber professional team, I am so blessed to work with these professionals, and I can't thank you enough for the work that each of you have done. I'd now like to bring forward, if I would, and they always hate this, would Lynn Zielinski Mills please come up front? And I'd like her to be joined by Lane No. but leadership has a face, and it looks just like those two. I wish to thank our partners at SAIF and KeyBank for always stepping up. Ernesto, Chip, you guys are part of incredible teams that understand bigger things in this community, and this is a great reflection. Tammy and I had a moment there where we said, we're sitting there listening to Jeanne, and we're like, this doesn't happen in all communities. And so all of you for taking the time to join us tonight, we so appreciate it. With that, we're gonna wrap up our special night with some tunes. So don't feel like you gotta race out of here. But I would like to ask you all to be safe. We'd be happy to grab you an Uber if so fit. There's no embarrassment in that. We, with SAIF as our title sponsor. Chip, I know the gig, buddy. I know the gig. In all seriousness, we kick off 2025 with a lot of new elected officials. Our Salem Chamber will remain committed to saying everything and displaying what is right for small business owners in this community. Tonight is about agriculture, but understand our organization, whether you are a member or not, we are working on your behalf to make sure Oregon is a very, very special place for businesses. And the next 6 months are going to be very daunting for business owners and employees over at the state capitol. Our organization will be on the front line, and if you have a voice you'd like to share, we would welcome your voice, and we will proudly take that to the elected officials who are asked to make very key decisions. Kevin Mannix, thank you for being an outstanding voice for small business in this community. With that, ladies and gentlemen, God bless, and we can't wait to see you next year.